In case you weren't aware, Leica just unveiled the Leica M10-R. This is a brand new version of the M10, R standing for resolution. So this has a 40 megapixel sensor inside, and last month I had the absolute privilege and blast using this camera for about 2 weeks. I got an email from Leica asking if I was interested in testing out one of their new cameras before it was announced, similar to what I did last year with the Q2. So I agreed, had no idea what to expect, and the very next day the Leica M10R with a 50mm Summilux was in the box for me, and I had 2 weeks to shoot whatever I wanted with it. This was really the first time I got a chance to spend some time with an M10, and I had an absolute blast using this thing. So today I'm going to kind of give you guys a little bit of information on what's new in the camera, and of course share plenty of photos that I made with it. I wish I had the camera still in hand to kind of walk you guys through everything with it in my hands, but unfortunately I had to send it back a few weeks ago, so my M6 is just gonna sit right here in its place. For starters, let's go ahead and look at the actual press release just so I can get all of the specifics and fine detail stuff up front and out of the way. As you would expect, the camera is going to be available in both black and silver chrome, although now the silver chrome is going to be discontinued for the standard M10. So if you go and buy a brand new standard M10 today, it's only going to be available in black chrome. If you aren't already familiar with the M lineup, the M is a rangefinder camera. This is a full frame digital rangefinder, so it really kind of stands in its own league in terms of, you know, different camera types and different options. There really aren't any other options like the M, and that kind of adds to its appeal. Again, 40 megapixel sensor in this thing. The files are absolutely insane. It shoots DNG RAW files at 14-bit. They're really nice to work with. You have tons of information there, both in color and resolution, with a single SD card slot and 2 gigs of buffer, so you have about 10 frames at the full resolution there for that buffer. And your sensitivity range for your ISO goes from 100 all the way to 50,000, and that's adjustable in 1/3 increments. And that's pretty much all of the technical information that you might be interested in when it comes to looking at this camera. At least that's all I would really be interested in knowing, but there's all of the information now up on Leica's website, so feel free to check that out if you want a little bit more further information on the specs. But what I really want to focus on is just talking about, one, the photos themselves and, you know, viewing the photos and sharing them, but more than anything, just what it was like using the camera, being such a big fan of the M6 and using this for everything for 7 years now. And I gotta say, it is definitely the closest I've ever felt to using my M6 with a digital M, for sure. Years ago I had the M8. I actually made some photos that I really like with that M8, which is a very old camera, and it wasn't even a full frame rangefinder, but I really enjoyed using that camera. And then years later I had the M262, which was sort of a stripped down version of the Type 240, but I've never actually owned or even tried out the M10 aside from taking a couple of photos inside the DC store when I did a talk there a few years ago, and that was like right after the camera had been like released or readily available. So having the M10R was really interesting for me because I always enjoyed using the digital M's, but obviously my M6 is just what I prefer. And I think I still prefer this over the M10R just because, you know, I really enjoy shooting film, and I've developed sort of I don't even know what the word, obsession? I don't know exactly the right word, but, you know, I have a bond with this camera in particular that I don't really think any camera is going to be able to compare to it entirely, but the M10R was really enjoyable, and again, it's the closest I've ever felt to shooting with a digital M compared to my M6, although I haven't used any of the M10D where there is no LCD display and there's like a little fake film advance on there to use as like a thumb rest. I've never used that, so I would imagine that would put it even closer to really, you know, feeling like the M6 or any of the film M's, but the M10R I really enjoyed. Of course, the body itself felt really familiar to my M6, but also the button layout and the LCD screen, that's very different. But now, shooting with the SL2, I really enjoy the way they've kind of streamlined their design. Everything is super minimal and consistent, whether it's the M, the SL2, the Q2, the CL. All of these cameras have really similar design philosophies and makes it really seamless, kind of bouncing from one camera to the other. Which I really enjoy, especially kind of just going all in on this system. It's nice knowing that there's a lot of consistency from different models and things like that within one brand. Of course, I shot plenty of photos around the house with the kids because that's just what I use my M6 for more than anything. It's just my personal documentary work of my family, you know, just taking photos of everyday life, making sure I have a good record of that for their sake and my own. And the M10R just fit in perfectly because I just shot it the same way I would using my M6. And I used both the 35 Summicron version 4, which is my personal lens, and I also used the 50 Summilux that they sent along with it, and my god, I am really interested in adding that lens to the bag now because I'd never actually used that lens, and I totally get the hype. My good friend Benj Heish actually has a really good video all about that lens and all of the work he's made with it, both personally and professionally, and kind of talks about, you know, it's a very expensive lens, but it's kind of paid for itself over the years of use with that lens. Really good video. I'll put a link down below to check that one out. Definitely check his channel out. I had a really good time using this setup at my in-laws' house. We went and stayed at their house, and they have a little farm that the kids just love running around on, and I shot plenty of photos of them, all of the animals there on the farm, and it was just nice being able to just carry around such a small compact system, but having that massive resolution and treating it the same way I would my M6, it just fit in perfectly. Even using live view, which is something I didn't really expect to do, but especially with that 50 f1.4, I found myself using that and just using the LCD screen, which feels so weird for me to do that because I love the M6 because it is a rangefinder, but using that live view, I mean, there were times where it just made sense, whether it be a lower angle or something where I didn't really have the ability or desire to like crawl on the ground to get the right kind of shot. It just kind of worked, and the focus peaking was really reliable. It was definitely interesting, and they also sent over the VisiFlex, which is like a little EVF that mounts to the hot shoe, and I could see a lot of like Leica purists kind of considering that like blasphemy to use on an M camera, but it was really useful, and I used it to take some photos for Roast Coffee and a couple of the other retail stores inside the Fort Collective that I shoot for. And it was really interesting to be able to use the M in that kind of scene and get a real-time view of my exposure and my focus using the VisiFlex, and it made the M seem like a much more like well-rounded option for not only just personal work, but even in professional settings as well. Not that it wouldn't be without the little EVF, but it was a lot more practical than I really expected. But that resolution is just insane. I shot this photo of the chickens at my in-laws farm, and I shot this wide open, and if you zoom in, it is insane at f1.4 what kind of resolution and detail you're getting there. It just blew my mind. I also shot some low light photos of my M6 in our living room, so this is very dark, and I really pushed the ISO up as far as I could, and I was really surprised at how clean things were all the way up towards the top end. Obviously around 50,000 things are just a big mess and it's not really usable. At least for most cases. Maybe you would be able to use this, I don't really know. It depends on what your uses are, I think, but I was definitely surprised with the low light. And what I've heard from other friends who got an early look at this camera, as well as being M10 owners themselves, this is definitely a step up. The M10R is going to retail for $82.95 in US dollars, and no matter what way you look at it, that is a lot of money. And I'm still, somehow, and I have been for the last month, trying to figure out exactly how to make that happen, especially now though that I have the SL2 as my main like work camera. It seems like that would be a good kind of 1-2 combo for, you know, wedding work or anything like that, where I could have all the benefits that the SL2 has, but for a lot of the quick, more documentary work, the M10R would be just a nice combination there to add to the SL2. So not right now, but hopefully maybe sometime later this year. I'll see what I can do. I am gonna try my best. I'm very interested in this camera though, way more than I really expected to be. There's something to be said for just using cameras that you really enjoy, and I'm doing that more and more now, and very excited about it. That's it for me though with the M10R, at least for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this little early access look. I'm sure there is going to be news all over the place with this camera, so definitely check out everybody else who had early access looks and, you know, sharing their thoughts and opinions on the camera. I'm sure there's tons of them out there now. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below though, but that's it for today. Thank you guys for everything. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.